the Puma Deviate Nitro 2 versus the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 Fade. The predecessor and the successor of the same shoe lineup. But which one's the better daily trainer? Let's discuss. So before we get into the video, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're ready, subscribe to the content. Thanks so much, love you guys a lot. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Strava for all sorts of other updates and things of that sort. So without further ado, let's begin. Specs for both shoes up here respectively, and we're going to do something a little different. We're just going to ask the big question first and start, I guess, breaking down each shoe as we go rather than specs, and then start answering questions. So between both shoes, which one's the better daily trainer? The answer to that truly is that it depends on two things. One, what you're looking for out of a daily trainer, and two, your own biomechanics to a more minor extent. But we'll get into that, right? So before we get into those questions, some of the immediate questions, if you're here for just quick answers, right? Which one's better for trail running? Probably the Deviate Nitro 2. We've got lugs on the bottom of the shoes that allow for more traction on various surfaces. This one is more road-based, but is still arguably will be okay on trails, but I would rather lean for this shoe more or less, even though this is, like, again, going to be just a fine road shoe as it is. So those are some of the easy questions right off the rip. Differences between the shoes that would give you different opinions resolve sort of around the specs as it goes, right? So it's going to be situational to a couple of things. Number one, if you're looking for a faster daily trainer that has that higher drop, and by higher I mean a 10 millimeter offset between, you know, the heel and the forefoot in this case, you would consider these factors, right? You want that higher offset because you want more, I guess, emphasis on calf, Achilles, those tendon groups in your calf area to have more training time than like hamstrings, glutes, quads, etc. This would be your shoe of choice because that's what the emphasis is on. And now, in this particular case, when we have a shoe of 8 millimeter offset, sometimes 6-ish, depending on which model you buy, because there's like a lab spec and then there's like your production spec. They're not too far off from the 10 millimeter, but I've learned that the difference between 4 millimeter offset or 5 and 10 millimeter is noticeable enough for a customer, right? So in this particular case, it doesn't make a huge deal, but if you are looking to get more emphasis on that muscle workout choice for whatever reason, whether you're in a triathlon block and like you want to get off the bike and you want to start running and you want to use more calf than anything else to conserve muscle, the Deviate Nitro 3 would be like a good daily trainer choice in my opinion. You'd also go faster simply because you have more Nitro Elite running the duration of the shoe, and you have just more Nitro basically protecting the shoe's structure and your foot from any sort of impacts that you would have with the concrete. That's kind of what the purpose here is. It's running the duration of the shoe to help protect some of the rubber base and also protect the Nitro Elite foam all the way across the shoe, whereas in the Deviate Nitro 2, some of that Nitro Elite is exposed directly to the ground, with the rubber being the only safeguard from you having direct contact with the super squishy foam, which otherwise can cause much more, I guess, injury as you continue running, just from my personal experience. Now, I know people who would probably want like a Nitro Elite all the way across and like a carbon plate and like some rubber. What I've learned is you can do that, but now if you start wearing the rubber out to the point where the Nitro Elite is like directly the only foam exposed to the ground, or you start chipping into the carbon plates, you're going to have some serious ankle issues. That's just, again, personal experience. It might not be the case for everyone else, but if you've seen like my videos with like the Vaporfly and X% 1s and 2s that I've cut into the shoe, basically the entire rubber into like the foam and then into the carbon plate, basically exposed. It hurts to run in those shoes for multitudes of obvious reasons. The support, the fact that the carbon plate is exposed, it might be hitting the ground, whatever. In this case, I didn't get to that point. I did get to about 400 miles and I said, okay, enough is enough. I'm losing a bit of grip on the shoe. It's starting to become a little bit uncomfortable to run in. We'll just call it a day, right? So on that note, if you're looking for a more comfortable, a little bit slower, but a more sustainable daily training ride with a less of a drop, so in this case it's like 6 to 8 millimeters depending, The Deviate Nitro 2 is the move here, right? You're going to have a little bit more support in the heel, and then you're going to have the Nitro Elite running basically duration of the shoe across. And it's just an interesting design between both shoes here, where they decided to opt in for just regular Nitro foam to run the entire shoe, and here it was just up to the midfoot, but mostly exposed on the heel. So personally, so far, 50 miles deep into this one and about 400 plus in this one, I like this option so far. It just it's going to allow for the shoe to maintain its structure as we go on, because another thing that happens with like these super soft foams, even with a carbon plate, is that you're going to basically warp. The foam is going to warp and degrade over time, and it might change the drop and the stacks accordingly when the foam starts fatiguing after a while. So in this case, I would almost assume that the foam should be sinking more in the forefoot area, but if you look at it from here, we have some wrinkles in like the midfoot area on both ends. So the midfoot itself might be just like gradually caving in on the shoe. I don't think it's going to change the offset or anything like that too much, but that's just kind of the consequence of having super soft Nitro Elite basically exposed with rubber at its points. Whereas here, you would expect the structure and the structural integrity of this shoe, I think, to hold up much longer, despite the fact that the Nitro Elite isn't exactly directly exposed to the ground. And I think in this case it's so minimal, because what is that, like barely a centimeter, maybe maybe exactly a centimeter between the Nitro Elite and the ground because of this regular Nitro foam that's kind of riding in the forefoot. So that's just something to obviously keep track of and keep note of. In terms of uppers, I would say the Nitro Elite 3 has a better upper overall, minus the decals being a lot more of like this kind of rubber piece, which I imagine over time it might become annoying. So like this piece here on the side, you can pull it off if you really wanted to, whereas on, I think, this pair, everything's just kind of painted on to the mesh. Yeah, it looks like it's just painted on, so I think it causes less of an obstruction or any sort of abrasion on your feet in that kind of context. So that's just a small thought there, but from the shoelace perspective, there is like a slight difference. Of course, you can see off the tops. We have like these pull straps here in the center of the Deviate Nitro 3, whereas in the Deviate Nitro 2, it just runs straight across just fine and no issues. So at this point, I haven't seen a necessary need for them. I imagine it's to allow the shoe to either tighten or loosen accordingly if you've tied it a certain way, but to me it just looks more like a decal that really doesn't serve a purpose, because there is, you know, a shoelace loophole in the shoe there. Now if the shoelace was exposed, if there was no shoelace hole and the lace was being held by that pull tab, this like springy tab, I would have a completely different opinion on it, but so far looks like just a decal to me. The gusseted tongues are about the same across both shoes. That's not an issue. The ride of both shoes, again, minimal differences between both. I personally like the pacing and the speed of the Deviate Nitro 3 a little bit more, just because I like that higher stack height, despite the fact that I have femoral anti-version as it is. So what that means is my knees, when I like stand or if I'm laying on the ground, they slightly cave in. So as a result, you would want a more natural style shoe. So in this case, you'd like that lower drop as you kind of go into your training, whereas this shoe is more preventative of femoral, not anti-version, but femoral inversion. I gotta get my terminology there correctly, but that's when your knees are normally kind of bowing outwards rather than kind of caving in. So this shoe is designed more to offset that, in addition to giving you more, I think the word I'm going to use is strain on the calf and Achilles, rather than utilizing more hamstring, glutes, quads, etc. So that's kind of the other thing to consider there. In terms of pricing, they're about the same, so there's not really a budget thing to consider there. My overall take between both shoes is, why not have both as your daily trainer options? And I say it this way, right? Because if you want that faster daily training run, like your everyday run, I would opt in for the Deviate Nitro 3, simply because you have the speed, you have the carbon plate, you have the offset, which allows you to focus more on calf strength and Achilles strength as you're going along in your run, and as a result you can get more of a tempo pace out of the shoe comparatively to the Deviate Nitro 2. Not to say you couldn't get it in the Deviate Nitro 2, but the way the shoe, I think, overall is designed is to kind of tone it back and be a little bit more comfortable. Of course, have a little bit more reinforcement of your midfoot to heel zone of the shoe with this Nitro kind of running the duration of the shoe there. And with the offset, it's kind of leaning more for you to attempt to use more hamstring, quads, glutes, so more muscle, muscle recruitment. That's kind of what it is. And again, it's super not subtle between these shoes because they're so close in drop. But as you get closer, just for your reference, like between a 5mm drop shoe and like a 10mm, that difference will be far more noticeable. Just between like 8 and 10, it's really not that much, but you'll see as you kind of go, it does kind of change there. So between both shoes, I like them both as your average daily trainer. I like the fact that the successor takes on some of the issues with the Deviate Nitro 2 and tries to remediate some of them and eradicate some of the issues it may have had previous, such as like the Nitro Elite foam caving in from constant pounding and having this nitro foam just being a support element for that piece. I do like the heel cap so far. It doesn't like do a whole lot, but if we had to think about our heel lock every time we were in the shoe, then I would be concerned as to why this was on the shoe. But considering I don't have a heel slip issue and this piece is part of the shoe, there must be something working in tandem here that allows for this to be a comfortable ride, in my opinion. And then again, the foam and the rubber combo here, fairly negligent. I don't really care for the pattern too much in its current state. I understand it's like more of a road kind of pattern that resembles like a race car tire, and I'm like, all right, fine, whatever, it's cool. And then here, of course, it's just lugs, which is better for, you know, trail running, but it's also good on the roads. I've used it for the roads for like 400 miles, and it's just fine, man. So I like both of these as daily trainers, and again, happy with them being either choice for my daily lineup, and I would even be okay with having both of these if I didn't have to retire the Deviate Nitro 2 from, you know, operations for just starting to feel uncomfortable. That's it. So again, if you agree or disagree with the assessment, let me know in the comments below. If you have both pairs and you like one more than the other, tell me why. If you think that the Deviate Nitro 3 is better because of what's happened to it, or you think it's worse because the Nitro Elite isn't as exposed as it was in the Nitro 2, again, let me know. That's what we're here to do, just kind of deliberate on some of our thoughts on the shoes. And yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. So thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.